It's something we all hear about. It's something we all know about. It's something we all view as a responsibility. It's something our grandparents did, our uncles, our dads did. It's the draft. You're above 18, any one day the government can call you up to fight and possibly die for your country. Now, the question you may be asking is this right? Should I do it? These are very valid questions we'll be going over today. Now, before we can look at, when we've used conscription as a country, whenever countries use conscription, and should or should not they have used conscription, we have to really think what conscription means. It means, from a personal perspective, from the perspective of a soldier, you are to go out on a battlefield, and you are to kill at least one to a countless amount of human beings, and you may possibly die, you may see your friends die. Think about the toll that is. Just really examine that for a second. People say, yeah, okay, that's war, but really think about it. Your government is saying, I'm going to make you walk out and say, to look a man in the eyes, or look at him through the sights of a rifle, and say, my life means more than yours. I will end another human life. You really just think about what that is, what you're doing. You really have to think deeply about the purpose of life here on Earth, what your religious beliefs are, what your beliefs as a person are, and you have to sit down and say, should I ever kill another human being? For me, no. There are very few scenarios where I'll have to kill another human being. If they are a absolute direct threat to my well-being or a well-being of an innocent person, I may have to. Which would involve, Nazis or a person wielding a knife right in front of me and I have a gun in my hand. But other than that, you really have to think, because you're saying my life is more valuable than yours. I'm going to cut because now this may stem back to the fact that I don't really believe in an afterlife. So for me, killing somebody is just ending them. They cease to exist. You are taking all the experiences they could have in the future and you're saying those are done. I'm ending those. That's a powerful decision you must make. That's a decision you need to cope with when you get drafted, saying, this is what I have to do. I must end somebody else's experience. All their loved ones, themselves, everybody that loves them, you're just shutting that down for the sake of, it was just my orders. You have to really think about what kind of decision that is to just shut somebody down like that permanently. So then people obviously are going to say, well, there have been scenarios in history where it's been right for get drafted. World War II. Yeah, if you're an American, you're a Brit, you're a French. I don't know if they had draft because they had their country taken over, but yeah, in that scenario, fighting Nazism, stopping the Jewish genocide, most importantly, killing the ideology of fascism, that's something worth killing another human being for. But you also have to examine, okay, yeah, the draft's good. Well, weren't the German forces drafted? Well, they were just answering a call of duty. They got drafted. Got a letter in the mail, said, all right, you need to fight, you need to die for your country. Okay. But I bet half of them didn't really look back and say, what am I actually fighting for? I'm fighting to keep people in camps. I'm fighting for an ideology that is vicious and cruel, one of the worst political ideologies the world has ever known. But they weren't thinking about that. They were just thinking, it's my duty. And that's why that argument, it's just my duty, I got drafted, I have to do it, which I hear from my friends all the time, is so dangerous. Because, yeah, okay, it was their duty. Did it make it right? You have to examine that. Because the question you'll ask people with that, you bring up the Nazis. Well, of course, in Nazi Germany, I wouldn't go if I got drafted. Really? But you just said you had the choice. It's the same black and white decision it was for them as this for you. And that's why it's so important for somebody of conscription age to really ask themselves, before the letter comes, am I willing to do this? If I get drafted today, am I willing to go fight and die for the sake of my country? Is whatever fight I could be, you think about what fight could happen, is that fight worth me killing another human being, ending their experience, or dying myself? You need to ask yourself that question. That's why it's so important. So for this next part, I'm going to kind of transition. I'm going to go over, there have been 5 instances in U.S. history where conscription has been used. I'm going to go over each and every one of them and say, would I fight and die for this? Answer yes or no, and give the explanation, and then kind of move into today. if a letter, because I am now of draft age, if a letter came in, would I do anything about it? So let's move on. Let's begin. So the first time the U.S. used conscription was the Civil War. Now, would I fight if I got drafted? Absolutely. Because, I'm assuming I'm in the Union, because I live in Illinois. If I was in the South, I wouldn't. But let's say I'm in the, yeah, I would fight. I'm fighting for not only the unification of our country, which is kind of minor in my eyes, but more for ending slavery. That's a hell of a reason to fight for. I would, if I was in history saying, oh, what did you do? I fought and died for the right of people not to be property. That's a good fucking legacy to leave. So that right there that's an easy answer. Yes, I would fight in the Civil War. Next up, we have World War I. I'm going to answer this pretty quickly. No. If you examine the history of World War I, you can just tell, oh, this war was, for not a better use of the word, retarded. It solved nothing. It started over essentially nothing. What was accomplished? So the start of the war was because essentially, okay, the Archduke was assassinated. No, that's bullshit. It was countries wanting to show their might and get revenge for past wars they lost in the late 1800s. That's stupid in and of itself, because that's not fighting for a just cause. And the solution for the war, what it solved was, its solution was World War II, a worse war. There is no way I would fight World War I. Plus, U.S. troops, when they went in, were kind of sacrificed by the generals to get a quick victory. I mean, you wouldn't know it at the time, but that's just another aspect. I would not fight in this war. So yeah, that's a no for World War I. World War II is going to be my second and final yes in the terms of conscription. Let's look at I can't really see a downside from if you're a U.S. or British soldier getting conscripted and fighting. You're ending the Jewish genocide. That alone is, yeah, that's a pretty damn good reason to fight. And secondly, you're stomping out fascism. That's a pretty big deal, because that was toxic, that was all-encompassing in the 1930s. I mean, that ideology was populist in rhetoric, but in turn it just stole wealth, put people in fucking camps, made the problem worse. I mean, it's a political ideology that I'm very happy is dead. So, would I fight World War II? I think for anybody that's on the Allied power side, abso-fucking-lutely. Now's the part where it gets somewhat controversial. Korean War. No. First off, I didn't even know there was conscription for the Korean War. I didn't think they would need it. I didn't know how many U.S. soldiers really did die in Korea, but I looked at the stats. Apparently a hell of a lot more than I thought. No. People will say, for Korea, well, it's clear you have the horrible Kim Il-sung versus the democratic South Korea. South Korea was not democratic. South Korea was a dictatorship, then it was a dictatorship until well into the 70s and 80s. It was a horrible place to live until then, until the technology boomed their economy. So there is really no good side. That, just like Vietnam, is a political statement between the Eastern and Western blocs. That is I'm sorry, but from an ethical perspective, that's not a good enough reason to go end another human life or have your life cut short for, the U.S. has a better position on the chessboard. No, no, that's not something I would do. And I'm going to transition right into Vietnam. It's just the same fucking way, except there's no precursor towards, there's democratic, because Vietnam, as soon as we left, the people wanted communism. I mean, they just, first off, who we were fighting in Vietnam, people don't realize, we're fighting North Vietnamese. Yeah, okay, the NVA was a factor. But the Viet Cong, those were southern Vietnamese citizens we were trying to help that were killing us because they didn't want this. So what people don't remember is, before we came, you know that picture of the Buddhist monk on fire, Rage Against the Machine, their album cover? That was pre-Vietnam War. That was under the rule of Deng, who was a Catholic that was horribly oppressive to Buddhists in South Vietnam. So there's no good side in that war. There is none. You're just fighting, again, like Korea, for political chessboard moves, and that's, in my opinion, a horrible decision and not something worth killing another human being or yourself over. And those are all the times in U.S. history we used conscription. There was talk in Iraq of using it. They didn't. I wouldn't have done it there. I don't really need to go into that. But, I mean, that's the U.S., and the U.S. has a pretty good track record up until World War II of wars we got involved in. 2 of the 3 precursor wars to World War II I would have fought and died for that were conscription. That's just for the U.S., though. I mean, there's many countries that obviously have conscription that it's like, would you really want to do this? Like, China, like, okay, yeah, you're fighting for your country, you're fighting for an oppressive communist regime. North Korea, Do you want to fight in the name of Kim Jong-un? Well, it's the same principle, and that's why you have to be so careful of just jumping to, oh, I'm going to go fight and die for X, because my country told me. That's why you really need to examine, if this happens now, is it worth doing it? And that's how I transition into right now. Would I fight and die, or would I go into the military if I got drafted right now? No. And if you pay attention politically and you're savvy in that, you can tell I probably am not a fan of the new president, but that doesn't make anything. There is not a conflict right now I would fight and die for. People will say, oh, Syria. Syria right now, it's a fight between the oppressive Assad regime and jihadists, who are notoriously oppressive. So no, there is not there on the political game right now, there isn't a conflict we could get ourselves into where I could say, yep, that's something where we're right, they're wrong, this is worth dying for. I don't see that as of right now. So, to answer the question I said at the beginning, if I got a letter right now, would I join the military? No. I would find some way to not fight. I would try to protest it. I do have bad eyesight, so I could see if I could finagle my way to that. My family does. If this is a Vietnam, we could probably do the good old Fortune Sun bullshit. But I would not fight right now. Times could change. A certain scenario could arise where the U.S. is fighting, and it is a just cause. Then I'll do it. But as of right now, no. And that's the question I'm going to leave you guys with. This was more of a think piece. If you get that letter right now, because I'm sure a lot of people I know that are watching this video, they're my friends, or subscribed to me, are above the age of 18. If you get that letter right now, would you join the military? And I know I've already talked to a lot of you, you're going to say yes. Why? Write in the comments. I sound like such an asshole. Write in the comments why exactly, right now, if you got that letter, you would fight. And don't you fucking say it's your duty, because it was the duty of the Wehrmacht German Nazis. It's the duty of the Chinese soldiers. It's the duty of all the horrible people in history that got drafted. So that's not a good excuse. You have to provide a substantive, ethical reason as to why I would fight in the military right now. So that's going to do it for today, guys. This video was obviously very fun to make. It was something that was on my chest. Kind of importantly, it was very easy to make. I made this in about a half hour, which is really easy compared to the one I just made, which was 10 hours. So if you like this, if you got this out, you're thinking, great. If you enjoy videos like this, that's also great, because I'm very much considering doing more of these. But until next time, guys, my name is DWell727, and I hope you loved the video.